Section 3 of the American Postal Service, 2nd edition. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Michelle Fry, Baton Rouge, Louisiana. The American Postal Service, 2nd edition, by Louis Melius. Chapter 3. Department Operations, General and Detailed Descriptions and Cost of Service. Part 1. History of Rural Free Delivery. The subject of rural free delivery occupies so much public attention both in the press and among the people, and the department has shown such interest in the matter and done so much to make the service popular and attractive as a public measure, that it is worthy of some considerable space in a work devoted entirely to postal affairs. Aside from tabular work, which has no proper place in descriptive accounts of departmental operations, a very good idea of what rural delivery is and aims to accomplish may be gathered from the articles which follow this introductory reference. The history of rural delivery dates from January 5th, 1892, when Hon. James O'Donnell, member of Congress from Michigan, introduced the first bill in Congress relating to the subject. This bill carried an appropriation of $6,000, but failed of passage. March 3, 1893, Congress appropriated $10,000 for experimental purposes, but this sum, together with $20,000 appropriated July 16, 1894, for the same purpose, was not used, Postmaster General W.S. Bissell of New York deeming the amount insufficient. On June 9, 1896, $10,000, together with the prior appropriation of $30,000, was made available, and experimental rural free delivery service was established by Postmaster General Wilson of West Virginia on October 1, 1896, simultaneously on 3 routes in that state: Charleston, Uvilla, and Halltown. At the close of business, June 30, 1916, there were 42,927 rural routes in operation, 42,766 carriers covering 1,083,070 miles and serving 5,719,062 families, representing a total population of 26,307,686, and at the cost of $51,715,616. Aggregate daily travel by rural carriers, 1,063,305 miles. Average length of rural routes, 24.96 miles. The first complete county service was in Carroll County, Maryland. Available reports show that between the years 1905 and 1909, delivery of mail on rural routes increased 87%. In 1913, 2,745,319,372 pieces of mail were delivered. In 1915, 3,193,326,480. 1916, 3,022,755,601. Cost of delivery per patron, 1915, $2.06, 1916, $1.96. Average annual pay of carriers was $1,162.50, including motor vehicle service. For horse-drawn routes, the average was $1,155.48. Rural delivery defined. The doubts, uncertainties, and the delicate questions involved in the early days of rural delivery, when the subject was viewed with concern, cautiously tested as an experiment, and its extension in various directions regarded as perhaps outside the bound of original intent, and therefore to be approached with considerable reserve, is well illustrated when petitions from Utah and other mining sections of the West for the establishment of such service to supply isolated communities devoted exclusively to mining raised the question in the administration of Postmaster General Charles Emory Smith as to the proper definition of rural free delivery. It was held by the first Assistant Postmaster General that the term rural meant communities not included in cities or incorporated villages, and that it did not necessarily imply that the persons so situated should be engaged in farming pursuits. The struggle for rural free delivery. The aim and purpose of rural delivery was to place the rural resident on something like equal grounds with the dweller in the cities so far as mail facilities were concerned. Not exactly so, for conditions were dissimilar, but to such reasonable extent as circumstances would permit. For years there had been a growing discontent among farmers and the people in the smaller towns and villages because of the postal advantages afforded to the cities and the more populous communities. They felt themselves deprived of opportunities and benefits which others enjoyed, and could not understand why the accident of location should make such a difference. Postal service was intended for all the people, not a part, not merely for those who had chosen to live in cities, but for those outside as well. This desire to share at least in the benefits so freely accorded to others became at length so outspoken and insistent that recognition could no longer be denied, and the matter was finally introduced into Congress and an attempt made to secure legislation upon the subject. The magnified difficulties of such a proposition as rural delivery contemplated had long deterred action, and when the attempt was finally made, the question was viewed with such caution and approached with such hesitation, and the apprehension of an unknown and indeterminate expense so bound up with possible failure of real benefit in proportion to cost, that postal authorities hesitated to take the initial step. Even when a sum of money was appropriated, the task seemed too great for successful accomplishment, and it was only when further delay was vigorously opposed that the step was taken. Congress voted $40,000 to make the experiment, and with that to begin, active measures were taken, and the rest is postal history. The advantages of rural delivery. The question has frequently been asked to what extent and in what way has rural delivery service benefited the country sections of the United States. Many magazine articles have been written to show the general advantages it affords in rendering rural conditions more tolerable and enduring the inconveniences to which such life is subject. In one particular, at least, it has been of immense advantage, and that alone has secured to it great public favor. It has given the farmer his daily paper. This great educator of our modern civilization, an almost indispensable necessity of our times, was practically denied the rural resident before the advent of this service. But now the avenues of communication are so far-reaching and the service so well conducted that publishers of daily papers have not only been able to greatly extend their circulation in every direction, but actually to bring the morning newspaper to the farmer's door at an hour which places him on an equal footing with his city neighbor in all the advantages which early news can give, but which is of special advantage to the farmer who has something to sell and is thus directed to the best market for his purpose. The combined opportunity which both publisher and subscriber now enjoy in country sections reached by rural delivery, and the use made of it, is forcibly illustrated in a recent statement published in a South Dakota paper. A rural carrier stated that when he started service some years ago, there were but 3 farmers on his 2 routes who took daily papers. There is now something like 200 dailies taken by patrons on these routes, some farmers subscribing for 2 or 3. What rural delivery has done in other directions may be summed up as follows. It has broadened the field of industrial opportunity, touched as if with magic power the possibilities of human endeavor, and transformed conditions to a degree almost marvelous. It has brought special delivery almost to the door, secured good roads and maintains them by official interest and concern, has attracted the attention of the various states to this question and obtained results. It has made farm lands more valuable and contributed to increased production. It has abridged time by rapid communication, brightened all environment, and made ordinary dull routine interesting and attractive. It has lessened toil by the instructive suggestions which government experiment and inquiry affords, and has made the home a center of influence, and crowns domestic life with all that makes for peace and contentment. Rural delivery as viewed by President McKinley. The favorable opinion entertained of the advantages of the rural free delivery service when it was yet in the experimental stage, and doubts were expressed as to its practical benefit, costs considered, is well set forth by President McKinley in his annual message to Congress, December 3, 1900. Quote, "This service ameliorates the isolation of farm life, conduces to good roads, and quickens and extends the dissemination of general information. Experience thus far has tended to allay the apprehension that it would be so expensive as to forbid its general adoption or make it a serious burden. Its actual application has shown that it increases postal receipts and can be accompanied by reductions in other branches of the service, so that augmented revenues and the accomplished savings together materially reduce the net cost." End quote. The first county rural service. The first full county service was inaugurated in Carroll County, Maryland, and at a time when weather conditions made it something of an undertaking. December 20th, 1899, was the date selected, and winter with its storms and snow had put the roads in the worst possible condition. 63 post offices and 35 services by Star Route contractors were discontinued in one day, and rural free delivery service substituted. Westminster, then a third-class office, was made the distributing center, but postal stations were established in villages where post offices had formerly been located. Service started with 4 two-horse postal wagons, and with a postal clerk in each to issue money orders, register letters, and cancel stamps on the letter mail collected. These wagons supplied mail to 20 rural carriers at designated points, and brought all the territory within easy and convenient reach. This initial service first covered 387 square miles of the 453 in the county, but soon afterward embraced it all. The inauguration of so great a change in postal service created antagonism, and a strong delegation came to Washington to enter protest. But the manifest advantages which soon began to appear silenced all opposition, and the great majority of the protesting citizens withdrew their opposition and bore convincing testimony to the efficiency and value of the service. The cost of the service in the first 3 months was $4,543, saving by service superseded $2,805. Increase of postal receipts was $1,501.75, leaving net cost of the whole county service for 3 months at only $236. This successful county experiment attracted wide attention, and full county service was thereafter rapidly established in many directions. Countrywide extension, rural delivery. The extension of rural delivery has increased from year to year, and the cost of the service has grown in corresponding proportion. The great next step would be countrywide extension, which has been frequently mentioned on account of the vast possibilities bound up in such a measure. This would, however, involve a very considerable expense. It is estimated that to extend this service to all rural patrons, wherever located, would cost something like $100 million more. While such complete service is the logical conclusion of all rural delivery effort, and may be expected to engage public attention in the near future, as it is the only means left by which the thousands of people now deprived of such benefits can be reached and accommodated, such a tremendous advance must be seriously considered before any definite steps can be taken. But rural delivery will never reach the point of greatest usefulness until this countrywide extension is an accomplished fact, and people everywhere are permitted to equally enjoy the benefit which it confers. How rural delivery enhances the value of farm land. Many arguments have been advanced by the friends of rural delivery to show the almost immeasurable value of this service to the farming communities of the nation. But there is one case which has come under the notice of the publisher which presents an argument of such striking force that it is worthy of special mention. Mr. Marion F. Holderman, of Washington, D.C., states that in 1885 he bought 135 acres of farming land 3 miles east of Rantoul, Illinois, in Champaign County, for $44 per acre, and that in 1901 rural delivery was established, enabling the delivery of the Chicago daily papers at his gate in the morning, thus giving him all the advantages of the Chicago market and the opportunity of the shipment of grain, stock, and farm products the same day that these published market reports appeared. This fact so greatly enhanced the value of the land through these succeeding years that he was able to sell this property for $225 per acre on March 1st, 1917, thus netting him a profit of $24,435. No improvements were made on the farm except necessary repairs and painting of the buildings. He states that if there had not been rural delivery, he would have had to go to the post office for his mail at least twice a week, which, at the lowest estimate for the time of the person, vehicle, and the horses, would have cost him over $225 per annum, and as there are 105 families on the route besides himself, the saving to the patrons of the route by this service is over $23,850 annually, besides the value of the land increase and many other advantages which have followed. Taking his estimate of saving to each family along a route, and allowing for 6 families for each mile, 3 on each side of the road, and there being 1,037,259 miles of rural delivery roads in the United States, it can be seen what an aggregate wonderful savings this has made, not counting the property, personal, and educational value of such a service to the people. It will be seen by this showing that the saving to the patrons of 1 mile of rural delivery service, $1,350, will more than pay what it costs the government for a 24-mile route at a rate of $1,200 per annum. End of section 3.